All right, everyone. I am going to start by talking about getting started with your GLP. So they are either on their way or maybe you've even received them and you're getting ready to start. So when you receive your GLP, the very first thing I want you to do is watch the video on how to properly load your syringe and inject. This is really important. Once you've got that down, this video is going to walk you through how to get started and how to get the best results from the process. And this is something you can always come back to during, your 12-week protocol if questions do come up. But so the first thing I want you to understand is this. We don't know exactly how your body is going to respond until you start. Most people, they do great, but I would say probably 15 to 20% of people, they do great. Or 15 to 20% of the people are maybe just a little bit more sensitive in the beginning. So instead of jumping right into a full dose, I like you to ease it into the body first. And what we found works really well is something that we call split dosing, especially in the first week. So let's say that your prescription is 25 units microdosing. Instead of taking all 25 units at once, you could take about half, so say 12 units on your first day, and then the other half like 3 or 4 days later, just so you get a little spacing in between. So if you have some side effects, it gives you time to kind of get over that, and then you could take the other half. Now, if you're at the higher dose, like 50 units, you can do the same thing. Split it into 2 doses the first week. This allows your body, again, to just adjust and instead of overwhelming it, because again, we don't know how your body's going to respond. Then the following week, if you felt good and you didn't really have any side effects or they didn't last very long, they were completely doable, you could go to work and function, you're fine to move into your full weekly dosing. Now, this is really important. Remember, this is not a race. If you felt a little off for a day, that's okay, and that can be normal. But if you were really nauseous and you didn't want to eat anything, like the thought of food, or even the smell of food, you just felt awful for several days, that's your body telling you that it was probably a little too much too fast. And in that case, we just adjust. It's okay. You can lower your dose, you can continue split dosing, or you can take more time to just build it up. I would much rather you go slower and feel good than push fast and just feel miserable. So, because we do not want you to lose your appetite completely, because that's not normal, we want your appetite controlled but not gone. You should still be able to eat, 2 or 3 meals a day, or maybe they're smaller meals spread out throughout the day. That's how we protect your metabolism and your muscle. Okay, so now let's talk about your dosing, over time. If you're doing a structured protocol, month one, month two, and month three, your units will stay the same, but the strength of those medications increases when we're talking about like your tier one weight loss dosing, if you're just getting into it. So month one it should be probably 2.5 milligrams. Month two goes to 5, so it doubles to 5 milligrams. And month three goes to 7.5 milligrams. Even though the units are going to stay the same, you're getting more medication. So make sure you're using the correct vial for the month. Don't start off with month three because you will feel sick. So if you're unsure, please ask. Inside your account, when you log in, you have access to your patient portal. This is where you can message your provider directly. If something doesn't feel right, reach out. Also, if you were given something like Zofran for nausea in your prescription, use it if you need it. You don't have to push through and be miserable. You don't have to be a hero. Just, we want to make sure this is a good experience for you. So now let's talk about nutrition because this is one of the biggest factors in your success. And it's why so many people fail and gain weight back and lose a lot of muscle because they're not following these things. So if you do not get enough protein and proper nutrition into your body, your results will not be what they should be. These medications actually work better when you eat. So if you're not hungry at all, that's a sign your dose may be too high and you should message the provider. Also, let your brand partner know who you're working with. Again, we want your appetite controlled, not gone. Let's talk about some exceptions here. So some people lose weight very quickly in the beginning. They might lose 10, 12, maybe even 15 pounds. but a lot of that is going to be inflammation and water weight, not just fat. You may notice your face looks less puffy, your joints feel better, and you just feel lighter. And on the flip side, some people don't lose as much all in the first few weeks or the first month, but that's okay too. This is not just about a 3-month program. You didn't get here overnight, and you're not going to fully reverse it overnight either. This is about restoring your metabolism and body signaling. This is very important. That's why these medications are so important. So now it comes to, what are you eating? Let's keep it simple here. Protein first. Protein is your master macro when it comes to just longevity in general, be it on a GLP or if you're focused on just, your restriction of what you're eating, it doesn't matter, but we need protein. Then healthy fats and then smart carbs. So don't go carb free, but choose wisely. Focus on whole foods and be mindful with things like breads and pastas, fried foods, and definitely try to avoid the highly processed foods because you may feel like a food hangover if you're not following this rule. You can still enjoy life. This is what makes these medications so great. It gives you food freedom. You can go out, you can have meals, maybe even a drink, but aim for about 80% being consistent every single week. Also, pay attention to your portions. A lot of people do better with smaller meals throughout the day instead of larger meals. And I don't recommend extreme fasting while you're on these medications, but eating actually helps this medication work properly. All right. Now the next piece is just as important, and that's movement. Walking, and cardio are great, biking, swimming, but they don't preserve muscle. You need resistant training. So if at least 3 times a week, I want you doing something with weights or resistant bands or, just body weight exercises. Even 12 to 15 minutes is enough if you're doing that, at least twice, maybe better 3 times a week, maybe even more. Because if you're not using your muscle, your body will start to break it down. The brain needs to know muscle's important. And if you don't activate the muscle, the brain doesn't get that message. Okay, so here's where people get into trouble, and it's not the medication, it's not eating enough protein and not activating the muscle. We want you losing fat and we want you preserving muscle. So those two things have to be in check. So make sure, you're maybe in the beginning, the first couple weeks, you might not get into that, but definitely by month 2, you want to make sure those things are really in check. All right, let's talk about hydration because this is also important. And it's not just about drinking water, it's about hydrating properly, electrolytes. So you can drink a ton of water and still feel dehydrated if you don't have enough minerals. So I recommend avoiding things like Gatorade and Powerade. These are very artificially, they have lots of food coloring, a lot of like drinks like Crystal Light, those types of things. You want to make sure those are not those, that's like processed foods or like processed drinks, right? So try to avoid those. I want you to focus on clear hydration. Here's some like great natural, easy, you probably have in your pantry already, but these are things that you can do to help with electrolytes. Cream of tartar, most people don't know this, but I've been doing this for 25 years because I used to do HCG protocols, but cream of tartar is super high in potassium. So you can take like an eighth of a teaspoon or a half of a teaspoon and put it into water. It is tasteless. So it's a great way to get potassium in. High quality sea salts like Himalayan or Celtic salt, and then a good magnesium supplement at night. But here's the one thing that I really want you to think about is hydration is about getting water into your cells. The problem is you need the minerals to help make it happen. So now let's talk about a few common things that come up when you're on a GLP. So some people may get a slight irritation at the injection site, maybe a little redness or even a little, almost like a little bubble bump, or maybe even bruising. And that's okay. That happens. It doesn't happen all the time, but it's not like ideal, but it's also, it can be normal. So make sure your alcohol dries before injecting because that can just cause a little irritation, almost like a little stinging effect. So go straight, instead of going straight in with the needle, you can just tilt it a little bit, but not too much. So a lot of times some people will get like a little bubble under the skin because they've tilted the needle and it's come into the skin a little too um, into the skin rather than more subcutaneous. So that I tell people like you're holding a pen, just kind of come in at a slight angle. Also, some people find they feel less nausea when they inject out in the outer thigh or the kind of the hip area instead of the stomach. So that's something you can try too. Now, if you're someone who feels very sensitive, like ongoing nausea or flu-like symptoms, that doesn't mean that this isn't for you. It usually just means it's too much too fast. So we need to slow it down. One of the other things I've noticed clinically is that um, injecting not in the stomach. So going out into the kind of outer hip and outer thigh area away from the stomach can also reduce some of that nausea feeling too. So you may want to just try avoiding the stomach, especially in the beginning. So one of the other things, like I said, we kind of want to slow it down. You may be one that has to lower the dose or maybe even space it out to 10 days rather than 7 days and just give your body time to adjust. This first 3 months, especially the first month, you're going to learn a lot about how your body reacts to these medications. So this isn't about working, with your, or I'm sorry, this is about working with your body, not forcing it. Okay. So lastly, let's talk about your subscription because I want you to understand how this works. So inside your account, you can manage your subscription and adjust timing, pause it, or even cancel it if for some reason you need to do that. But just make sure, well, let's talk about how you do that. So when you go into your patient portal, you'll click on patient portal and you'll scroll down, you'll see your medication. Click on that medication and then it'll say, message the provider. And then it will also, there'll be another box that says, manage subscription. So in that section is where you can either edit it for a month out if that's what you need. I think you can even change the date. So maybe you only want it to be 2 weeks. So I'm not exactly sure how that is. I've done it, but I don't remember exactly. So you can play around with that. But if you decide to cancel it, you have to cancel it right at the underneath the prescription, but then also scroll to the bottom of the page and look over. It's kind of grayed out. So you got to look for it. Click cancel again. Because if you don't cancel it the second time, that kind of confirms that you want to cancel it. It may not get canceled. So just so you know that. All right. So every 3 months, you will need to complete a new questionnaire to continue your prescription. So if you wait too long, then you kind of have to start the whole process over again. But for the most part, because this is a telehealth platform, this is prescribing medications. You do have to do this. I know for some people, it's problematic. They don't like it, but it only takes a couple minutes to fill that out. And you definitely want to make sure that you answer the questions when it asks you. So you've already done a 3 month round, or maybe you're in 6 months, whatever it is. If you're doing especially the weight loss dosing, or if you're doing the microdosing, but you maybe want to go up, or maybe you want to change the type of medication. Like if you're doing a microdose or a weight loss dose with B12, but you're like, I really want to do the glycine now because I want to focus more on visceral fat and sleep. Or maybe you work out a lot and you're wanting to work on visceral fat and muscle. So then you'd want to choose L-carnitine. This is where you can change that when you renew your subscription. So you'd want to go up to product and just pick the one that you want and then just start the process over again. Now your driver's license is already uploaded into it, so you don't have to do that again. They may ask you to take a picture, but when you fill out your questionnaire, say yes, that you have used these peptides, GLPs before, and take a picture of your month 3 that you're in. So you have what the prescription says and upload that into, it'll ask you to upload it and you'll upload it into there. And then they'll usually give you a choice, especially for the weight loss dosing, if you want to go up to tier 1.5 or you want to go up to tier 2. And like if you go up to 1.5, but maybe you just finished tier 2, you maybe don't want to stay at 7.5. You may find that you want to reduce it, especially if 5 milligrams, you're still losing, up to a pound a week and your appetite is under control. don't go up because you think you have to. You can actually stay at 5 milligrams, but message your provider and just say, hey, I don't think I need to go up to 7.5 because my appetite is really controlled. Because if you go up and your appetite shuts down now and you're not having any desire to eat, that is not good. Remember? All right, so you just make sure you are messaging your provider and maybe even letting your brand partner know too, but definitely the provider. And, this is what they're there for, to answer questions and to help you maneuver through all of this. Okay, so as you get started, just remember this. This is a tool, you guys. This is a very powerful tool, but still a tool. When you combine it with proper dosing, good nutrition, hydration, and movement, that's when you're going to get the best results. So take your time, listen to your body, don't rush the process, and don't try to do it alone because when you do this right, you're not just losing weight, you're helping your body function the way it is meant to. So I hope this helped you. And if you have any questions, please reach out to the provider and your brand partner so we can continue to help serve you and give you the best experience and the best results possible. And just remember, don't just stop these medications. If anything, you want to titrate down and get to a point maybe where you're doing microdosing and you can spread it out even longer. So maybe you're doing a microdose every 2 weeks, or maybe you're even splitting the microdose down where you're only doing 1.25 milligrams versus 2.5 milligrams every week. And then you can go every 2 weeks. So there is um, definitely, you do not want to go cold turkey on these things because now you kind of helped your body understand how it's supposed to work again, and then you just shut it down. That is not what we want. So make sure you're staying in contact with your brand partner and make sure that you are staying in contact with your prescribing doctor in your patient portal. All right, good luck, and I can't wait to hear all your amazing results and maybe even meet you someday.